The anime starts with a young boy named Lloyd, who is being taught magic based on the 4 basic elements by his strict teacher. She began training him on the first element, fire, and firmly told him to keep practicing until he succeeded. If he failed, he wouldn't get dinner that night. This threat made Lloyd take it very seriously. Lloyd started practicing magic with determination. After a long time of persistent attempts, he went to his teacher and told her that he'd finally succeeded. He demonstrated what he had learned, which surprised his teacher with how fast he was improving, but she quickly put out his fire, then produced a huge flame in front of him and told him he still had a long way to go, making him realize that what he achieved was just a simple beginning. The next day, she started teaching him how to bring water out from the ground. When Lloyd tried to copy his teacher at first, he didn't succeed at all, so she explained it to him in a clearer way. When she brought water out of the ground in front of him, Lloyd was amazed by her power, and she told him to try it himself now. When he tried again, he managed to do it and proudly told her about the water, but she explained that she was happy about his progress, then rewarded him by pouring a large amount of water on him and told him this is what real water is. On the following day, he showed that he could use the power of wind, but his power wasn't perfect yet. When his teacher saw this, she blasted him with wind, pushing him away from where he was standing, to show him the difference between his limited power and her true power. After that, he went to the forest and used the power of ice to make a statue of his teacher, thinking she would like it. But when his teacher saw the statue, she used it against him. She grabbed Lloyd, enlarged the statue, then smashed it, causing Lloyd to fall into the scattered ice. He came out from the ice thinking that he lacked real power, and told his teacher he'd work hard to gain it. After this, we moved to their home, where his teacher was very sick. Lloyd asked his teacher if she felt any better, but she was still in a lot of pain. Lloyd kept helping her and cast a healing spell on her, after which his teacher felt better than before. She hugged him to thank him for his help, but then she grabbed him and told him it was time to continue training again. As days passed, the teacher was sitting in her room reading a spell book, looking sad. Lloyd came in to tell her the food was ready. As she put the book on the table, it dropped to the floor. When Lloyd picked it up and touched it, something strange happened and he instantly lost consciousness, which shocked his teacher. She picked up the book and thought Lloyd had the qualities to be the chosen one. She sat alone and finished reading the book, trying to predict Lloyd's future. She went to Lloyd's room and found him sick and asleep. She told herself she wouldn't let this boy repeat her mistakes. She kissed him on his forehead, leaving a mark that looked like a healing symbol, but the mark disappeared after that. The next day, they went into the forest, where Lloyd used a healing spell on a fruit, making it grow spectacularly. His teacher saw that he was now good at healing, but not as good as her, since she then healed the whole tree, not just one fruit. She told him that this is what true healing is, picked a fruit, tasted it, and walked away, leaving Lloyd amazed by her tremendous power. Back home, his teacher told him that some of the beast folk could use strange magic to control monsters. Lloyd asked if this was odd magic, but his teacher refused to teach Lloyd this ancient magic and told him to stay away from it since it had been extinct for centuries. The next day, he started training again with a magic staff he had hidden, but his teacher revealed it to him and struck him with it, knocking him down. She asked him to act faster, saw he still lacked enough experience, and told him not to slack off in his training. They returned home again to talk about the rest of the types of magic, including the magic stone. She told him it's crystallized mana, whose power turns everything around it into magic stone as well. Lloyd asked if it could be restored. After several days, they went into the forest again, but Lloyd didn't know what was about to happen. His teacher covered his eyes and asked him where he was. He was surprised when he saw a monster in front of him. She handed him a knife and asked him to return home within a week, shocking Lloyd with her sudden request. She told him he had to survive using magic, then left quickly. The monster appeared immediately and attacked Lloyd, but he immediately ran away and climbed a tree so the monster wouldn't catch him. He thought he couldn't defeat this monster using white magic and figured he had to escape quickly. He used vision magic and saw that the safe area was very far away. He came down from the tree and walked while carrying the knife, then hid the knife. After nightfall, he went to a tree, improved a fruit, and ate it, then stayed in a cave and used a circle spell for a minor boost to strengthen himself. In the morning, he started climbing mountains and almost fell off. When night came, he went to stay inside a tree and used a spell to reduce mana usage. In the morning, he continued walking in the forest and kept on boosting his strength. While he was on his way, he stepped on a small branch and caused a huge monster to fall, but Lloyd avoided falling himself. When he saw the monster, he got really nervous and ran away immediately, while the monster chased after him right away. Lloyd used a speed spell and made himself faster so he wouldn't get eaten by the monster. He returned home but felt exhausted and lost consciousness. His teacher came out and greeted him with pride for completing the challenge. Years later, Lloyd grew up and kept doing housework. While cleaning, he found a book about a city nearby. When his teacher saw that he had stopped working, she asked him to finish. Then he asked if he could borrow the book, and she didn't mind at all. While he kept cleaning, she appeared again and asked for his help with a spell to stop aging. She dragged him away forcefully and then brought him back the same way. After that, they had lunch. But then his teacher got an idea for a new enhancement spell. When night came, she didn't let him sleep and asked him to stay with her. She asked him to drink a special potion so he'd have energy and vitality, but he passed out from exhaustion after drinking it. He kept reading the city book, even on the next day. His teacher went to his room to wake him up, but he wasn't there. She saw the city book on his desk and realized what had happened. The story moves to Lloyd on his way to the city. Lloyd moved to the city and was amazed by the number of people everywhere, almost getting run over by a moving cart. The cart driver told him to watch his step, while Lloyd thought this city was incredible and completely different from the quiet life he was used to. He then bought some pastries but ended up broke, and suddenly got bumped by a flyer. However, someone was watching him from afar without him knowing. After reading the flyer, he learned about a job for an adventurer and decided to join in. Lloyd joined his new team on an adventure, with Yelan as the team leader. While facing a monster, the beast delivered a blow that shattered walls, leaving Lloyd in awe of this destructive power. Yelan asked Sheena to use a healing spell, but Lloyd used it without anyone noticing, which boosted the whole team and got them ready to take down the monster. One team member shot an arrow, hitting the monster's eye, which angered it, and it struck back at her, but her friend from the team blocked it. Another team member managed to bind the monster to stop it from moving, and finally, Yelan landed a powerful blow that defeated it. Lloyd saw that somehow they succeeded, but he caught the eye of one of his teammates. They returned to the city where people awaited them as heroes. Then they went to the team's house, where Yelan gave Lloyd his share of the money, telling him it was the reward for rank D, and asked him not to misunderstand. However, Lloyd didn't feel bothered at all by this modest classification. Yelan suggested they celebrate their success, but Lloyd split off because he doesn't drink alcohol, which angered one of the girls on the team because of that behavior. But Yelan didn't care and told her that any white mage could do the job and that they weren't very useful in battle. We moved to the teacher's house, where Lloyd's observer came to tell her that Lloyd had been hired by a team of adventurers called the Hero to kill monsters. The teacher saw this as Lloyd's chance to engage in a real battle, and that there was nothing to fear as long as he didn't get full of himself. The observer asked the teacher if she regretted her decision, but she replied that she wouldn't make the same mistake twice. The observer reminded her that long ago, the Lord of Demons sacrificed himself while attempting to steal a magical book, as well as trying to drag them into ruin. She recalled the past when ancient magic was used, and this magic had restored the lives of everyone fallen to the Demon King, all in exchange for Lloyd's life. We moved back to the city where a vendor was selling books about the exploits of the hero team led by Yelan as they took down a group of monsters, drawing a lot of people around him. There were stories of Yelan facing off against demons, but Lloyd appeared in them as a helper to his friend, blocking the monster's strikes until they successfully bound the beast, allowing Yelan to deliver the final blow. At Yelan's house, he went to his friend's room and asked why she had been studying so much lately. She was reading about defense fundamentals, so Yelan noted she was very diligent. However, she recently felt something strange with the blows she was blocking with her armor. Yelan told her she was overflowing with power, but she hadn't seen him training lately, though he didn't think it was necessary since she was strong already. We moved to the river, where two soldiers encountered a giant monster, which killed them near the city. Back at Yelan's house, he was informed about the soldiers' deaths and was told to kill the monster. Yelan thought this task seemed very easy. At the river, Yelan asked if the monster was nearby. Lloyd assured him that he was sure, then revealed its location. They entered the monster's lair, and Yelan struck it down, but another monster appeared, surprising Lloyd and angering Yelan. Lloyd discovered that a demon was behind this, and the black gem in its magical staff was causing the chaos, crystallizing the mana, which was very rare. One of his teammates asked if the gem was saturated with mana, while another noted that he was using it to control the monsters. Lloyd used his own spell and asked Lulo to shoot an arrow at it after he boosted her, which surprised Lulo, but she managed to fire and hit the demon. He asked Mia to bring him that staff, and Mia wondered if he wanted her to teleport it to him. When she did, Lloyd grabbed the staff, surprising Mia and angering Yelan for crossing the line, since he was the leader here. Yelan suggested they pierce the monster, but Lloyd urged him to stop as the monster's behavior would be unpredictable without the magical stone controlling it, making it dangerous. But Yelan charged at the monster, ignoring Lloyd, and nearly got hit, but Lloyd used his power to push Yelan out of the way of the monster's strike. Yelan got angry angry again and told Lloyd not to intervene. Then Lloyd attacked the monster again and landed a hit that took it down. Back at Yelan's house, Yelan decided to kick Lloyd out, telling him he only held them back and that as a white mage, he let Sheena do all the healing, deeming him useless. Lloyd asked Yelan, "Do you think I lack strength?" and felt sad when Yelan agreed. After realizing that Lloyd was aware of his shortcomings, Yelan told him to leave the team, and Lloyd walked away. Lloyd joined another team in the guild and asked their leader if he could join them, but the leader turned him down because they already had a white mage in their group. Lloyd kept walking and heard a girl begging the staff to do something, pleading she needed a white mage-free night by tomorrow, but it was too difficult for the staff. The adventurer asked the staff again about any available white mage and begged a lot, but the staff told her about Lloyd. The adventurer rushed up to him and asked if he was a white mage. When he confirmed that he was, she asked, "Are you with a team?" But he told her that, in fact, he was free and out of work. She grabbed him and urged him to come with her. They were the new Lloyd team before joining them on their mission to capture a group of thieves called the Clay Blocks. Cross the Archer believed they would succeed if they followed the plan, and the witch Silica thought they should be cautious because it was a high-level mission. Their leader, Yui, believed they could do it. However, the team's white witch, Clum, was not paying attention to them and was busy with something else. Then the team attacked the thieves, dealing significant blows. Silica used fireballs, which injured the thieves, causing them to hide behind wooden crates. After Silica finished her attack, one of the thieves said they should attack now, while she was done. When they did, Cross's arrows were waiting for them, and they were completely taken out. Yui successfully took down one thief after another from the gang, but almost got hit by one of the thieves. Luckily, Dagas intervened just in time and blocked the thief's attack until Clum used her magic to strengthen Dagas's body, allowing him to push the thief away and throw him to the ground. They succeeded in eliminating the thieves, which frightened the gang's leader who was hiding and surprised by what happened. He told himself he had to escape, but the adventurers appeared behind him. Yui asked him to surrender and accompany them quietly. The thieves' leader asked, "Who are you?" But he recognized them when he saw the badge on Yui's necklace. Yui informed him they were rank A adventurers. Then the thieves' leader grabbed his staff, which had a magical stone, and told them they couldn't defeat this monster since they were only rank A. He summoned a huge stone golem, which shocked the adventurers. Silica guessed that its massive stone body would reduce its vulnerability to magic, while Cross believed bows and arrows would also be ineffective. The thieves' leader laughed and mocked them, commanding the golem to attack. However, Yui asked them to let her handle it. She attacked the monster but had no effect. Then, the monster retaliated, but she dodged the blow. Yui then asked Clum to cast a body-strengthening spell on her, but Clum was distracted, leading Yui to ask again with urgency. This time, Clum listened and complied. Yui attacked again, delivering a powerful blow to the monster, successfully destroying it completely. The team succeeded in their mission and captured all the thieves. Clum apologized to Yui for her distraction during the battle, but Yui wasn't upset because she understood Clum had her mind elsewhere. Her little sister was the reason Clum had been distant from the team for a long time. Next, they went to the guild. After Yui found a suitable replacement for Clum, a white mage named Lloyd, she hurriedly took him to her team's headquarters. Silica was surprised she returned so quickly, while Cross thought she hadn't found any white mage. However, she told them she found one, although Dagas didn't believe her and asked where he was. Yui pointed to Lloyd, saying she would introduce him, and asked him his name. After Lloyd spoke his name, she told him he was the new white mage. Yui introduced Lloyd to the team members, explaining she was the team's swordswoman and leader, welcoming him to their group. But Lloyd wasn't ready to join them just yet. Silica expected something like this, and Dagas thought she had brought him here without explaining everything to him. Cross believed they would refuse the mission they had, feeling it impossible to do it without Clum. Dagas doubted Lloyd could fill Clum's shoes. Silica understood Yui's feelings about giving up on the mission, but Yui was very upset. She asked what would happen to their client if they refused the mission since someone was requesting their help. Lloyd suggested leaving the mission for another team, but Silica insisted they couldn't do that because this was a rank A mission and could only be accepted by teams of rank A or higher. Dagas knew all rank A teams were on external missions, and they were the only ones who could accept it since they were rank S. This surprised Lloyd when he learned they were rank S, the highest rank for adventurers. However, Cross explained that adventurers couldn't work with members not registered in their team, so they couldn't borrow someone from another team. Lloyd wanted to help, but remembered what Aline had said about being useless, which made him feel sad. Yui sensed there was no problem if Lloyd was amazing. They then moved to the forest, where Yui asked Lloyd to show them his skills so they could evaluate him. Lloyd saw they had high hopes for him and felt very nervous, worrying he would disappoint them like he did with his previous team. Dagas thought Lloyd felt embarrassed because they asked him to demonstrate his abilities. He suddenly asked Yui to inquire about the spells he used, and Yui agreed to this idea. She asked him to cast a strengthening spell on all of them, which which surprised Lloyd. Cross thought it would be hard for Lloyd to do this because most white mages struggled with such requests. But Lloyd asked them if casting a strengthening spell would mean he would then be their rank S member. Yui confirmed this was correct, and they needed to do it simultaneously. Casting it one after another wouldn't count. Lloyd wondered what they expected from him. Yui asked Lloyd if he couldn't do it, but that wasn't really Lloyd's problem. Dagas told him not to pretend to be stronger, as there was no need to raise Yui's hopes. Cross asked him to be honest about whether he could do it or not. However, Lloyd requested some time. He produced his staff, which amazed Yui, and then showed them the magic circles and cast them on them. Yui asked Lloyd where he got the staff, but he had just used storage magic. He asked them what they thought of the strengthening magic he cast on them. They were astonished he had done it, and Dagas was surprised he didn't say any incantations. Cross felt his body had become lighter. Yui stepped forward to test it, striking a tree which led to it being cut down, stunning the entire team, who couldn't believe what had just happened. Lloyd told them he had cast 5 spells: body strengthening, defense enhancement, magical power boost, mana consumption reduction, and negative status resistance. Yui expressed her disbelief, asking if he had used 5 spells on everyone. He replied he did because casting just one strengthening spell on everyone was very simple for him. He thought they were asking for something bigger. However, he believed he had made a mistake in this and hid his staff, apologizing for his poor performance, claiming he wasn't fit to be a white mage for their team, and that he would leave. Yui asked him to wait before he disappeared. Yui was then surprised to learn he was a part of a prestigious team known as the Hero Team, but they had expelled him for lacking power. Cross asked how he could lack power after doing all that. Silica hadn't seen anyone use magic in such large amounts, but Lloyd thought there were more powerful white mages than him. Cross inquired about the flaw in his appraisal. Lloyd mentioned the previous white mage from this team, and believed it would be faster to rehire him than to bring Lloyd on board. But Yui informed him about the white witch they had with them who had a very sick little sister, and she was the one taking care of her. All this had drained her health and strength, which they all noticed. Silica told him she had been distracted during one of the recent missions, leading her to leave the team voluntarily. Cross learned from her that she didn't want to be a burden on them. Lloyd understood they were looking for a white mage for this reason. Dagas thought they might be able to embark on their mission without a white mage, but they could be risking danger, which would be a significant challenge for them. Yui hoped Clume was okay now, and the rest of the team felt worried about her. Lloyd asked if she was someone important to them all. This led him to feel a bit jealous and question them about her little sister's illness. Yui didn't know much about it, but it seemed the illness turned bodies to magical stone, shocking Lloyd. He recalled what he learned from his teacher regarding this sickness. Then he asked Yui to guide him to Clum's house. Lloyd and Yui then went to Clum's house. Clum was surprised by their visit. Lloyd asked Clum about her sick sister's condition. Clum told him she had gone adventuring with her little sister, Sylphie, but she was injured during one of their missions and lost consciousness when she approached her. Lloyd then asked about the symptoms of her condition, but Clum requested he see her for himself as it would be better. Then Clum opened the door to her room, and a terrible smell of mana wafted out. Her room was filled with the foul mana. Clum then lifted the cover from herself to show Lloyd her bad condition, which surprised him. Clum explained that Sylvie was turning into a magical stone, and that her mana was out of control, causing her body to gradually transform. She said it was only a matter of time before she fully turned. However, Lloyd approached Sylvie and speculated that if his spell was correct, he could treat Sylvie, which shocked Clom because the high-ranking healing magic users she had seen said it was impossible. She wondered what an ordinary white mage could do, but Lloyd believed it was because she had been exposed to a pure magical stone, and asked Clom if Sylvie had been injured in a cave with high mana density. Clom confirmed this because their task was to retrieve a magical stone from a cave. Lloyd then asked about the wound, and Clom revealed it to him. Lloyd's prediction was correct, as the mana had entered through that spot and then spread throughout her body, which was the reason for her transformation into a magical stone. Clom asked how he knew this, and he told her he was taught by an exemplary teacher. Then Yui asked Clom if she trusted Lloyd. Lloyd began to show his staff and used a magic circle but felt tired. Clom asked him what happened. He explained that he used a reversed mana transfer spell to absorb mana from Sylvie. Clom asked if he meant he reshaped the spell. Lloyd told her that the transformation into a magical stone progressed due to the raging mana inside her, so he needed to reduce her mana to the lowest possible limit until it approached 0. Otherwise, any treatment would be useless, and he would have to start over. Then he used the power of spells, and he utilized a flawed version that was very low in mana consumption, allowing him to burn much of the mana he absorbed while healing Sylvie, which astonished Yui and Clom. Yui asked Clom if it was impressive. However, Clom saw it as the most impressive thing ever ever since he used spells he created himself and cast 2 at once. Moreover, he showed great endurance and strong will to withstand the massive consumption of mana, something an ordinary person couldn't do. Then Yui was surprised by Sylvie's limbs as she began to recover, and Lloyd succeeded in completely healing Sylvie. Yui approached him and told him he succeeded in healing her. Sylvie then awoke from her consciousness and called for her older sister. Clom cried a lot from her fear for Sylvie. Then Clom thanked Lloyd and told him that once Sylvie fully recovered, she would venture with her again, which Yui found reasonable and better for her. Then Clom told them that their next meal was on her. Yui then said her goodbyes to Clom and Lloyd, but Clom stopped Lloyd and told him she was reassured about the team as long as he was with them, and asked him to take good care of them. But Lloyd wasn't officially a member of the team and still lacked strength. Then we moved to the tavern where Lloyd's new team gathered for food and drink. Dagas told Lloyd that he did well to heal Sylvie. Yui noticed that he was still acting very modestly and joked about hitting him. However, Lloyd's happiness was indescribable due to Sylvie's healing. Unfortunately, Clom wouldn't return to the team. Silica thought they needed to think about their future, and that Cross's happiness was now prevailing. Dagas said their friend had gotten a new chance at life, and that there was no reason not to celebrate. Yui thanked Lloyd for saving Sylvie. Then Lloyd recalled Elena's nasty words to him, and asked Dagas what the team would want if they were given a new life. Silica wanted to be a wife, and while they were talking, Lloyd interrupted and asked them to join their team, which surprised everyone. He informed them, assuming they did not mind his presence, leading to Yui being annoyed, and Dagas thought he was against the idea, but Cross was very pleased with this. Silica predicted that having Lloyd with them was very reassuring. Then Yui welcomed Lloyd to join them, and Lloyd shook her hand and thanked her for hosting him. Yui said they should celebrate now to welcome the new member, but Lloyd felt it wasn't necessary. However, Yui insisted on this celebration, saying this is how things were done, so she would throw a welcome party and asked him if he would join. Lloyd agreed, and the rest of the team thought she wanted to let loose, but Yui told them that wasn't the case, and that she was very serious and they misunderstood. After that, they celebrated Lloyd joining them and offered him a lot of food. Yui asked Lloyd to eat as much as he wanted until he was full as a gesture of hospitality. Lloyd accepted her offer and ate a lot, which surprised the rest of the team. Dagus saw that Lloyd was very hungry until he finished eating, and told them that the food in this town is really great. But Cross expressed his surprise, saying this place is quite ordinary. Lloyd thought the town's food had a special taste, which made him wonder what he used to eat as a child. Cross asked Lloyd what he ate growing up. Lloyd said that when he lived with his teacher, she would cook everything that grew outside in the garden, or roasted monster meat. However, Silica didn't believe that was really food at all. Because of that, Lloyd prepared meals, but had never tasted a flavor like this before. Yui asked Lloyd to describe their teacher to them, which amazed them. She said she wanted to get to know her since she taught Lloyd magic. The rest of the team asked for this out of curiosity. Lloyd told them she was more into combat and often caused lots of explosions during her magic experiments. Silica discovered that the teacher was not a white mage, but that she cast magic on Lloyd. Lloyd confirmed this and also told her she was fully skilled in magic and incomparable to anyone else. Silica hoped to learn from her if given the chance, but Lloyd immediately forbade it and warned her to avoid learning under her supervision no matter what. He recalled what happened during his training and thought she was a strict teacher. He said sometimes she was very kind and remembered some kind moments with her. Then Yui asked them to start their strategy meeting soon. Lloyd asked what it was, and Cross said they should explain the mission to Lloyd first. Dagus agreed with this suggestion so that Lloyd wouldn't get lost during the meeting since he wasn't familiar with the mission. But Yui wasn't good at explaining, so she asked Dagas to explain it to him. Dagas had no problem with that, but asked Yui to announce the mission. When Yui presented the mission, Dagas told Lloyd their task was to defeat a group of monsters that have been destroying farms. Since their appearance, the monsters had been ruining crops. Lloyd asked if there were multiple types of monsters. Silica thought there were several kinds, but Lloyd hadn't heard of different kinds forming herds, which was strange to both Dagas and him. Still, since it was a mission, they had to take it and handle it. Yui confirmed this and said if the people were having problems, it was the adventurers' duty to solve them. However, Cross thought that if they were going to fight monsters, this mission wasn't suitable for him or Yui either. Yui suggested that it was Silica's time to attack the monsters, and Silica agreed, but she had a problem. Wide area attacks consumed a lot of mana, and depending on their numbers, it might be difficult. Yui asked Lloyd if he could use offensive magic. Lloyd wasn't unable to use it, but he couldn't generate firepower equal to that of a specialist mage. Then Dagas asked to assign the main roles for their plan. He and Yui would start by drawing the enemy's attention and gathering them in one place. After that, Silica would strike. Cross was asked about his role. Dagas told him to protect Silica and Lloyd from the monsters. Lloyd would contribute with healing and support magic since that's the role of white mages. Dagas would decide the rest on the mission field. since they couldn't get all the details from the mission brief alone. Yui thought that was good. Silica was very excited about Lloyd taking on support magic for them. Lloyd asked her not to get her hopes up too much, which disappointed them. Yui told Lloyd to trust himself more than that. Lloyd had been kicked out of the heroes team because of his lack of strength, but Cross preferred people like Lloyd over those who are dominant and authoritarian because they are stronger. This gave Lloyd a little more motivation than before. Then they left the tavern. Dagas told them they would meet the next day in front of the inn and asked Yui not to oversleep, which made her angry because he treated her like a child even though she was 17. Cross thought that was a sensitive age between childhood and adulthood, which annoyed Yui even more. She reminded them not to forget she was the team leader. Then everyone went in one direction, and Lloyd went the opposite way. Dagas told him the inn was in that direction, but Lloyd couldn't go with them because he couldn't afford the cost. Dagas gave him a bag of money and told him to use it, but Lloyd didn't want to take it. Dagas said it would be deducted from his reward for the upcoming mission. Then Yui asked why they were standing still. Dagas said they were coming right away. Lloyd promised Dagas he would pay him back, and Dagas looked forward to that. Then they moved to the inn, and Lloyd went to his room. He told himself that the members of this team were very kind, and he should be helpful to them. The next day, they waited for Yui in front of the inn. When she came out, Dagas told her it was good she didn't oversleep, which annoyed her again. Then Yui asked about the rest of the team's luggage, and Cross told her Lloyd had stored them using spatial magic, surprising Yui that it was possible to do that with luggage too. When Lloyd hid Yui's luggage, she was very happy that she didn't have to carry her things as well. Silica was happy too because that burden was lifted from her. Then Lloyd suggested he could teach them this, which amazed them. Yui asked if they could really do that. Lloyd assured her they could, as everyone is born with a bit of mana, so it's not uncommon. But Dagas had never seen anyone do it before. Lloyd said teaching this wouldn't take long, but increasing storage capacity would require some training. Cross thought that way Lloyd could carry a lot of arrows, and Silica asked him to teach her quickly, and Lloyd didn't refuse at all. Then Yui started moving freely and asked them to go to the mission location now. They moved to the farmlands, and Dagas told Lloyd that beyond those towering mountains lies the magic country, which is now hiding from sight. Lloyd asked when they would try to invade the continent again. He thought that must be their goal. They continued walking, crossing a bridge in the air to reach the other side. They felt very scared. Yui tried to distract them somehow and asked, when creating a story to get past a situation, how does one muddy the waters? Everyone gave answers except Lloyd. Yui asked Lloyd to tell a silly joke too, but Lloyd hadn't learned that skill from his teacher. Cross told him that purposely telling a corny joke can cause laughter because of the mistake. Lloyd asked if he should say something silly then, and said he'd try it. Yui explained that taking it seriously destroys the meaning. She created this game to reduce tension during long trips. She asked Lloyd why they do that, and she thought if the mission is tough, constant tension would exhaust them. Yui asked another question. When spoils are distributed equally, what do you call a person who comes up with an entirely new route? Everyone gave answers again, but this time Lloyd couldn't do it and hesitated before saying it was a poor excuse. Cross said now he understood the idea and could tell a joke if he tried. Then they moved to the forest, where a mage was performing a magic ritual using a crystal. Then the scene shifted back to the team. They had arrived at the camp early since they weren't carrying luggage. Lloyd showed his belongings and started setting up the tents. Yui and Silica fetched water. After that, they finished setting up all the tents. Yui asked Dagas if it was okay to go wash up now, but Dagas disagreed because they had a lot of work, like gathering firewood and food. Lloyd volunteered to collect the firewood, which made Yui happy. She took Silica and went off. Lloyd went to gather firewood, and after collecting enough, he saw a tree with fruits like the ones he trained with his teacher. He picked one and tasted it. It was very delicious. Then he heard Yui and Silica shouting while washing in the lake. He looked over and saw a monster with them in the water, which scared them greatly. The monsters approached, but Lloyd immediately rushed to help. He fired a burst of flame at the monster, distracting it, and told Yui and Silica to quickly move to dry land. He showed them their weapons and threw them to them, also boosting them so they were ready to face the monster. Yui attacked the monster and successfully hit it. Then Silica cast a spell using fireballs that completely destroyed the monster. She was amazed at the power with which she struck it. When Lloyd and Yui appeared again so no harm would come to them from Silica's strike, Yui asked Lloyd to store her weapon again. Then they moved back to the campsite. Lloyd started teaching them how to use storage. All they had to do was create an opening with their hand. He showed them a glowing orb, but they couldn't do it either. They asked to keep trying for now. Then they all tried to master it, but they couldn't. Lloyd thought he was a bad teacher, and apologized to them because he wanted to help them, but they didn't see it that way since they were beginners. They asked him not to be so hard on himself, which made Lloyd happy. But Silica succeeded when she said the word storage, and they realized they needed to do this. After some time, Silica managed to store her staff, which made everyone happy. Cross tried as well. Then night fell, and Yui and Lloyd were awake. Yui saw no monsters and asked her if something was wrong. Then Yui approached him and thanked him for joining their team, but Lloyd was also in a dilemma and out of work. Yui thought she had forced him to join them. Lloyd asked why Yui was so obsessed with this mission, because it reminded her of her hometown. When she was a child, monsters attacked her village, and she was the only survivor, so she couldn't ignore it when she heard about this monster herd. Also, small settlements would face a huge crisis if they lost the food coming from their farm. Then Lloyd asked her to stop talking and told her to wake everyone up. A group of monsters appeared, but they hid behind the trees. Dagas told them these were a herd of Bawalork, which matched the mission description. Yui wondered where they were going. Lloyd saw a group near them and warned them to be careful. As they were carefully moving backward, Yui stepped on a piece of wood, which made a sound that drew the monsters' attention. They started moving towards them. They ran quickly, but the monsters were chasing them. Then they were surrounded by monsters. The team showed their weapons. Then the monsters shot threads at them. Dagas and Yui managed to block them. It almost hit Cross if Silica hadn't intervened, but the monsters managed to grab Silica's staff. They surrounded them with threads from all sides, preventing them from moving. Dagas asked what to do now, but Lloyd would hinder their movements now. Then Lloyd used his spell and asked Yui to attack. Yui managed to cut all the threads, and Cross jumped high and managed to untie Silica's staff and throw it to her. Then Yui attacked one of the monsters and managed to smash its limbs and pin it to the ground. The monster tried to attack her again, but she managed to hit it again. She jumped high and used its threads to move to the other monster. Then Lloyd asked Silica and Cross to get ready. Silica and Cross collaborated using fireballs and arrows, which completely burned the monsters. After they succeeded, Lloyd apologized for giving them orders, but Dagas saw that he was a great help to them and that he was truly qualified for this. Yui told him that they would rely on him after that. Silica told him that they were pointing at him now. The next day, everyone stored their belongings. Everyone was very happy about this and set off afterward, but Lloyd stopped and wondered why the Bawalork were here and where they were going. Then he caught up with them. Lloyd was camping in another place with his team and still remembers the Polwark herd and wonders where it was heading. He believed they should be very cautious. Then Yui and Silica came to him, and Yui asked him to go to sleep that night because he had kept watch alone the previous night, but Lloyd refused to go and wanted to stand guard himself because he was weak and wanted them to preserve their strength for when needed. Silica also suggested she could take turns with him, but he refused again. Yui sees him as very valuable to the team and thinks he should rest, but Silica interrupted her and asked Lloyd to tell them if he needed anything. Cross and Dagas were watching the conversation from inside their tents. The next day, they moved on and stopped to rest, but Lloyd continued keeping watch. Then Lloyd used his special magic for reconnaissance. Yui approached him and asked what he was doing. He told her he was scanning to check if there were monsters nearby, which amazed Yui that he could use this magic too, but Lloyd didn't think what he was doing was impressive, saying his reconnaissance couldn't reach wide areas, though it was better than nothing. He also used it at regular intervals to ensure their surroundings were safe, which helped prevent surprise attacks from monsters. Yui thought this was very useful, but felt it was too much of a burden on Lloyd, though Lloyd had no problem with it. Yui asked Lloyd if she could help him, but Lloyd didn't think so, which greatly embarrassed Yui and made her back away. Night fell, and Lloyd continued watching over them. We switched to Yui inside her tent, wondering if Lloyd didn't trust them. She thought his presence with them was wonderful, but he couldn't do everything, and it was sad that he didn't rely on them, especially since they were friends now. But Silica didn't see that anything could be done, and that everything was proceeding at its own pace. They weren't close at first, and the time they spent together is what brought them to this stage. There must be something that explains this disparity between his efficiency and self-esteem, as well as his motivation to work hard. She asked if Yui agreed with her opinion, but Yui thought Lloyd was a puzzling enigma if she pondered it. Despite his ignorance about much of the world, he possesses extensive knowledge in other matters, and she wondered about the life he had lived before. But Silica thought he would tell them about himself someday, and when that time comes, she thought they shouldn't rush him on this. Yui understood Silica's point and thought she was right, but Silica believed the truth might be very different from what she imagined because Lloyd was unusual. Then we switched to Lloyd, and Dagas came to him and told him he wanted his help with something and asked him to accompany him, but Lloyd was carrying the burden of surveillance. However, Cross appeared and told him he would take over the guard duty, allowing him to go with Dagas. They moved to the middle of the forest, and Dagas tied several ropes between trees near them. Lloyd asked what this was. Dagas told him these were grass ropes that make a sound when monsters approach them. Lloyd understood this was very useful, but Dagas did this so Lloyd could rest tonight. Lloyd appreciated Dagas's kindness, but said it wasn't necessary for him to rest. But Dagas explained to him that they used to sleep like this before he joined them and asked him not to overexert himself. But Lloyd cannot use reconnaissance magic while asleep and must continue the magic. Dagas approached Lloyd and asked if he didn't trust them, but Lloyd didn't doubt the function of the bell. He just assumed they should be more cautious just to be sure. But Dagas didn't mean that and asked if he couldn't trust them personally, which annoyed Lloyd. He denied this and said of course he trusted them, but he handles the guarding and reconnaissance at night by himself without involving them. Dagas thought this was evidence of his lack of trust in them, but Lloyd remembered his teacher's talk to him and Ellen's talk as well that he lacked strength and was useless. Then he returned to his present and told Dagas that if he didn't work hard, he would cause problems for everyone. But Dagas asked him to cause problems and that they formed the team for this reason, so they could handle things they were unable to deal with alone. They would certainly cause problems for each other, and he asked him to rely on them more than this. But Lloyd had never thought of this before, which made Dagas feel disappointed from talking to him. But Lloyd saw no problem in relying on others like himself because he lacked strength. But Dagas didn't see him as lacking strength, and neither did the rest of the team. He asked him to go back and sleep because morning comes early. Then they returned to the camp, and he entered the tents and finally slept. The next day, Yui woke up, and Lloyd came to her, hesitant to ask her for something. Then he asked her to help him fetch some water. Yui was surprised but then felt happy and agreed to his request. They went to fetch water, and the rest of the team felt happy about this. Then we switched to one of the nobles, Michel, who had one of his sorcerers working for him. The sorcerer told him they had finished installing the magic stones at the specified coordinates. Michel thought they were on the map and the path was opened. Then Michel asked the sorcerer about the high-ranking adventurers in the Ashtar area. The sorcerer told him that the damage caused by the monsters had overwhelmed them with mission requests, so most of them were now outside the city. Thus Michel succeeded in keeping them away. The sorcerer knew that only a group of ordinary adventurers and the hero's squad remained in the city, but Michel wished to keep the hero's squad away as well. But the hero's squad only moves at the state's request. But he wanted to see the performance of the hero's squad now that they were alone. He asked the sorcerer to go and inform their client that the time had come. Then the sorcerer disappeared immediately. Then we switched to Lloyd's team, who continued walking through the forest. Yui felt something was wrong with this forest. They all agreed on this, as they hadn't seen a single monster since entering this area. Cross wouldn't be surprised if this was the main road, but it was impossible to sense anything at this depth. Yui asked Lloyd if he could do anything with his magic, but Lloyd refused because using magic periodically had no effect on keeping monsters away. Dagas asked what exactly was happening here, but Lloyd would try to expand his search range a little and perform the reconnaissance. Lloyd was surprised, and Yui asked if he discovered something. Lloyd confirmed the presence of a group of monsters about 10 kilometers away, which astonished the rest of the team. Then Cross showed the map and discovered that this road led to the farm. Lloyd approached to tell them something, but Yui stepped forward and asked Lloyd in amazement if he could explore everything within this distance. Lloyd confirmed to her, of course, but Yui learned from him that he couldn't. Exploring a vast area, but 10 kilometers is not a wide distance for Lloyd, which surprised Yui. However, Silica believes that this exploration equals 10 times the range of a normal person. Lloyd explained to them that exploration greatly increases mana consumption, so it's not practical. Yui didn't see this as the problem now, but Dagus understood Yui's feelings. Though this wasn't the time to discuss the matter, Cross thought Yui's heart wouldn't hold up if she continued receiving shocks from Lloyd, and Silica agreed with Cross and asked them to head to the location now. They moved to the farm where many monsters were located, but Yui had never seen such a herd of high wolves before. Lloyd discovered this was the only location where exploration detected monsters and wondered where the rest of the monsters went. Silica understood this and thought the forest was teeming with other powerful monsters, making it difficult to imagine this was the result of natural conflict. Cross didn't see any signs indicating a battle in the forest, but Dagus couldn't believe monsters would abandon their territory without reason and asked Lloyd about the current owner of this farm. Yui heard the owner was injured by a large wolf and took refuge in his son's house in the city. Lloyd wanted to talk to him to ask several questions to find evidence about what was happening. Something strange and frightening appeared, but only Cross saw it because the others didn't have his visual acuity. Lloyd used a spell to strengthen his vision, and when he looked carefully, he saw the black stone and agreed it was indeed strange. Yui asked Lloyd if he could see it, and Lloyd said he used vision enhancement magic and asked if they wanted it too. Yui immediately agreed. Then Lloyd used enhancement magic on them, and they were able to see the black stone. Silica was concerned about the fog around the black stone, and Dagus asked what kind of magic stone this was. Lloyd knew this fog was part of his mana, but this sensation indicated it was monster tribe mana. He heard from his teacher that some monster tribes can use unusual spells to control monsters. Yui asked Lloyd if he thought the black stone could do that. Then Lloyd felt something strange, performed an exploration, and told them about another crowd coming in their direction, causing them concern. Dagus asked for any information about it. Lloyd knew it was a different mix of monsters, and there were more than 0 of them, shocking the rest of the team. Lloyd believed the black stone was likely the cause and had the ability to attract monsters. Yui was surprised anyone would do this, but Lloyd asked if someone wanted to get rid of them. However, the scale of what was happening exceeded that, and he discovered they were targeting something else. Cross asked them to withdraw now, but Yui refused because the monsters would destroy the fields. Cross angrily asked Yui if she could face thousands of monsters head-on. Yui hesitated to answer, but Dagus thought they couldn't escape now. Silica believed that if the monsters chased them and fighting occurred near the city, the residents might suffer collateral damage, but Lloyd suggested fighting, which surprised everyone, and said he had a plan. Lloyd asked Cross if he could hit the stone. Cross thought it was very far but believed he could do it, though he wasn't sure about breaking it after hitting it. This was enough for Lloyd, who was counting on him, which excited Cross. Cross took aim, and Lloyd used a spell to provide support to compensate for lacking power. After enhancing Cross, Cross fired the arrow and successfully hit the black stone, shattering it completely, which made Cross happy. Cross asked Lloyd what he did to his arrow because the power was amazing. Lloyd used strengthening magic on him, the arrow, and the bow as well, which amazed Cross. Cross asked Lloyd if he could strengthen people and weapons simultaneously. Lloyd asked, "Isn't this normal?" But it wasn't normal for Cross. Lloyd told him he just used strengthening magic, and that Cross was the one who hit the target with one shot thanks to his skills, which confused Cross. Then Yui pointed them toward the wolves and asked them to look. The wolves were devouring each other, and Lloyd thought breaking the black stone restored their natural ferocity, and it was impossible for them to eliminate each other completely. But this would reduce their numbers. Yui was surprised as usual, and asked Lloyd if he knew this. Of course, Lloyd knew this because the monsters were under the influence of the black stone, and he wanted to stop this crowd as well. Then they prepared for the approach of the large crowd of monsters, and various types of monsters appeared. Yui asked Lloyd if it was time now, but he thought the time hadn't come yet. The monsters got very close to them, but Lloyd still didn't think it was time. When the monsters attacked Silica, Lloyd asked her to attack. Then Silica showed her fire power and managed to burn the monsters, which amazed the whole team because the fire was much stronger than usual. Yui asked Lloyd what he did to Silica. Lloyd used strengthening spells on Silica, increasing magical power and reducing mana, and asked if that was enough. Yui saw that was sufficient. Then Lloyd asked Silica to continue. Silica felt she could release 5 more, and Lloyd thought this was good and asked her to switch to wind magic when she finished. Then Lloyd moved to Cross, but Cross understood Lloyd's plan to burn the forest using fire and using the wind element with it to obstruct the smoke from the flying monster's vision. Then Lloyd used a telepathy spell, and Cross could hear Lloyd's words directly in his head, and he would also share the locations of monsters he identified through his exploratory magic. Lloyd asked Cross if he could see them. Cross confirmed he could see them and aimed. The smoke didn't matter to him, and he successfully hit the monsters, causing many of them to fall. Then Lloyd told Silica they were entering the final stages, but Silica had almost exhausted her energy. Lloyd didn't see any problem and asked her to hold his hand. When Silica held Lloyd's hand, he transferred mana to her, which greatly surprised Silica, but after this happened, Lloyd fell to the ground. He told Silica that he gave her a large amount of mana at once, and asked her to hurry. Silica immediately used her power and summoned rain to extinguish the fire. Lloyd saw this prevented a fire from breaking out in the forest, and Silica thought so too, but her mana ran out again and she fell to the ground. Dagus saved her before she hit the ground and told her she did well. Yui asked her to rest a little as well, and said they would get rid of the rest quickly. Silica asked Yui not to push herself too hard, but Yui didn't want to hear this from her. She told Lloyd he was really amazing and couldn't believe he thought of such a strategy, but Lloyd felt he hadn't done more than any member and that he had played the support role assigned to him. Yui expected he would say this again, and didn't care. She asked them to leave the rest to them, and Lloyd was counting on them. Lloyd lay on the ground and couldn't believe he was exhausted after this. Yui and Dagus continued killing monsters, and Yui found Lloyd's strengthening magic really amazing. Silica was encouraging them a lot. Then Dagus and Yui returned after finishing off the monsters, and Yui asked about Silica's condition. Silica was fine. Lloyd asked Yui to return to the city quickly, but Yui felt very tired and asked if there was a reason for this. Lloyd said if his guess was correct, the person responsible for this was targeting Ashtar, which surprised the team, and that person had deceived them all.